Welcome to episode 3 of Zillennial Breakdown. Today, we have like a really loose plan for today's episode. And first of all, I apologize if you can hear my dog. She's in the room with us today. She's got the conker.
Oh.
At least my theory is that they're called conkers. If you can't see on screen right now, and she's really dark anyway. She's got like this thing in her mouth. It's like a seed with little spikes on it, a seed ball. And she really likes them, and she brings them inside and she chews on them until they disintegrate. So that's what she's got going on right now.
We have a guest on our podcast today.
Yeah, we have Phoebe Smith on the podcast today.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, but we wanted to originally continue on our, the series we've had going of tracing like different YouTubers we've watched and what that means. So we were going to start talking about Dan and Phil, and I think we still might a bit, but we also wanted to retread a bit because Smosh bought Smosh.
Yeah. So I kind of feel like, not that the framework is that, like, nobody knows our episode framework other than us.
Yeah.
But this is going to be like a bonus episode, I think.
It's going to feel like a bonus episode.
Yeah. A little, we're definitely going to venture outside of sort of the chronological, our experience with YouTube, like growing up with it.
Yeah.
Because of what's been going on lately. I was like texting you the other day and I said that I feel like I was having a bit of a YouTube renaissance, kind of.
Yeah.
And that was after I revisited one of PJ's old videos.
Kick the PJ.
Kick the PJ.
We haven't covered yet because he's kind of part of the Dan and Phil situation, but the British YouTuber made short films. Michaela's obsessed with him.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say that currently. Like, as much as I almost want to. No, I don't. I don't know. I was obsessed with PJ in high school for sure. Of the four...
The Fantastic Foursome.
The Fantastic Four... it's like kind of cringe to say that.
It is cringe to say that, yeah.
Anyways, okay, since we brought it up, let's like just explain who that was. It was Dan and Phil. Dan is on fire. Amazing Phil. Crabsticks, whose name was Chris Kendall, is Chris Kendall.
Yeah, he's still alive.
Yeah, I don't know why I use past tense for these people. It's just because he's not been active on YouTube for a long while.
Not for a while, yeah.
I always wonder about him whenever I revisit.
I know. I don't.
Dan and
what
Phil
is he?
videos.
No one knows what he's up to.
No. He's like on okay, the other day, I went and watched PJ's old video, Color Bandits. Which was uploaded a decade ago. And that let me look him up on Letterboxd. And PJ's on it, and then I like found Chris Kendall, and he's in, I think it's like mostly YouTube movies. It's like Bertie Gilbert.
Oh.
I don't remember what all I saw. It was mostly stuff I was unfamiliar with, but it was like, oh, okay, this was a YouTube production.
Yeah. Okay, well, yeah, because I knew he was in some Bertie stuff, and he did some like British television stuff. Has it not been updated since? Like, he hasn't acted in anything.
I don't know. I didn't look at studio names or like production companies. But at least 2 movies on Letterboxd that Chris Kendall is listed in the cast for were like directed by, like, I saw the name Bertie Gilbert twice. Yeah.
That would track.
Yeah. Okay, we got sidetracked. Fantastic Foursome. Dan, Phil, Chris, PJ.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like quintessential to our high school experience. Like, those people were parasocial relationships kicked up to 10.
Yeah.
And it was because they were cute boys.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just throw that out there. That is.
Well, not just because, it was because they were cute boys, but also, like, I feel like they provided a service that many other YouTubers did not. Like, it came as like a package deal of like, okay, if you like this person, you'll probably like these other 3 people. And they all made like a lot of stuff. There was a lot to get through. Like, they all had different things going for them. Like, PJ was a filmmaker. Like, he made very elaborate short films. And then Chris was more of a comedian who did skits. And then Dan and Phil did stuff together, so they did like Dan and Phil Games, which was gaming stuff, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dan did kind of like skits too, but they
Some
were
comedy stuff.
it was more like situational comedy versus Chris being more like absurdist, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
And then Phil was more like vlog style stuff. So like it was literally 4 different kinds of YouTubers, but all with like the same kind of sense of humor and like sensibility, I guess.
Yeah, and they were all friends.
And they were all friends.
At one point in history.
I think they're all still friends.
Yeah.
To my knowledge. I would like to believe that.
Not that it's our business, but
Mhm.
yeah. We can go ahead and believe that.
Yeah.
That sounds like I'm doubting it a little bit. I'm not. I just don't know.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah.
Yeah, this is gonna be a tangent-y one.
Yeah, I think that's fine now.
It is. Because I was just gonna say, speaking of friends and friendship, Ian and Anthony bought Smosh.
Yes.
And it's like almost old news now. I think it's been like a month and a half since the announcement video.
Something, like a month.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think they did it in June.
So a month?
A month, yeah.
And I haven't watched Smosh since early high school. Like I think I really was like trailing off from Smosh in middle school and 8th grade.
Maybe I said this in the first episode, but I bought a Smosh t-shirt in 8th grade. I wore it twice, and then by the 3rd time I could have potentially worn it, I was already over it and gave it to Goodwill.
R.I.P. You should have kept it. You should have kept it and then like worn it now.
That would be really funny. It's probably too small, but you know, it was black and it had like pink and orange lettering, like just saying Smosh like all over the front.
Old Smosh merch? I don't know. It feels like it might hold a little bit of value now.
Maybe.
Like probably not like.
I do still have a Smosh rubber bracelet somewhere.
Hold on.
It's in my parents' house.
Ian and Anthony bought Smosh, and I talked about Smosh in therapy the other day, and but actually what I was talking about in therapy was how they needed to grow separately for a while and then come back together. Like, I'm sure the time apart was hard and sad, and like, you know, leaving this channel, this company that you built, as you know, as far as Anthony goes, like that was probably hard and sad. But everything that happened like 6-7 years ago with Smosh, what's happening now would not have happened.
Yes.
If everything that happened didn't happen.
Right.
I'm being so eloquent right now.
And for context, like so Anthony Padilla left Smosh, leaving Ian Hecox as like the only original, because it's just the 2 guys, original member of Smosh within the company of Smosh, because they were bought out by the company that at the time was doing their merch and brand deals and stuff. Anthony eventually felt like this was not like his vision anymore, like not what he wanted to do, wanted to do different stuff. So he left. Kind of sounds like it's like, I don't know, not resentment, but maybe a little bit of resentment built up between Ian and Anthony as like co-creators, just like having different visions for what the company's future would entail. Ian led the company for a while. Their parent company dropped them. They were bought by Rhett and Link, who Rhett and Link are also very popular YouTubers. If you're listening to this, you probably know who they are.
Well, the parent company went out of business, I thought.
Oh yeah, parent company did go out of business.
So anything that they owned was
dropped. Yeah. So they were bought by Rhett and Link, and then that was like 4 years ago. It was only a couple years after Anthony left.
Yeah, I want to say 2019 then.
Yeah. So about 4 years ago. And Anthony left in 2017. So yeah, 2 years after Anthony left. And yeah, Rhett and Link has owned Smosh for the past 4 years. And it sounds like Ian and Anthony reconnected around like a year or 2 ago. They just decided to buy Smosh and do another go at it.
Yeah.
And they seem genuinely excited. Like, I've been watching all the new stuff that they've been putting out. Mostly because I'm just kind of like curious. Like, you watch something a decade to like a decade and a half ago ish, and people change a lot, obviously. So I guess part of my curiosity is like, well, how have they changed? Like, is that connection still there, and like, is the humor the same? Like, how have they grown? And I've been kind of like impressed, I guess. Like, it seems like they were able to really just step back into it, but also like the humor has evolved.
Yeah.
Which is really, that is impressive, I think, for people that have not written together for years.
They still have that connection. They still work well together. And I am excited. And it's just kind of bewildering to me that I'm enjoying Smosh videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
At 25 years old in the year 2023.
Yeah. I know.
When I like would minimize the window when my Smosh journey began in middle school, when I was afraid of my mom walking in on me watching Smosh. I was afraid she'd think it was inappropriate, because it was.
Yeah, it was.
Especially in her eyes.
They said that in one of the videos. I think it was the one on Anthony's channel. Like, Anthony like interviewed Ian.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, we felt, one of the things that was demoralizing for them was feeling like brands thought they were just for kids. But then they kind of acknowledged like a lot of our audience was children, and maybe it shouldn't have been children. But they had like
I don't remember that part.
They had this aesthetic of like bright colors and like making video game content and like stuff that I think is like very obviously kid centric, even if it's not for kids. Which is kind of like a broader maybe YouTube issue, I guess.
I feel like it was for them. I mean, you'd have to ask them, I guess, if they were making that early stuff for themselves or for their audience, like whoever they wanted their audience to be.
Yeah. They probably just did what they thought was funny. I mean, they were in their early 20s at that point. So, and like maybe even younger than that.
Children.
They were kind of children themselves.
Like they weren't kids, but like I do kind of think of a 20-year-old.
How old are Ian and Anthony? Because I remember
36.
them saying they're 36?
I think so.
What the fuck? That's old.
I think that's what I remember Anthony saying in one of the recent videos.
Oh my god. Really?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's like blowing me away. They look younger than that.
They do, but you know, they're LAians.
What the fuck? Yeah, they're 35. They're about to turn 36, both of them. That's so weird.
They're 10 years older than us.
Yeah, they are 10 years older than us.
Yeah.
You're never too old to make internet skit videos.
And you're never too old to potentially reconnect with people.
Yeah.
And learn and grow and create something new, but that honors your past.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to do.
If that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's something that, I mean, another thing that's interesting about this to me is that it's sort of unprecedented in terms of like YouTube stuff.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people want to move past that and are like trying new things, like whether it's like Twitch streaming or not doing YouTube anymore, writing, trying to make stuff elsewhere. Like, it's interesting to see Ian and Anthony, like, their dream was YouTube. Like, that's what it was making internet stuff. And I don't think you see that very often. Like, the dream for a lot of people is something more.
Is like filmmaking or acting
or music or writing. Like something else. Like, we talked about this a little bit in the last episode. Like, Tessa and Shauna, like, don't do YouTube anymore because they've moved on to other things. Whereas, yeah, I think Smosh is kind of unique in, like, that's what they wanted to do, was make skits and, like, just have fun with each other.
They're kind of kings.
They're kind of kings for that, actually, yeah.
But for that, like, yeah, in the pop cultural sense of that word, but also, like, kings of YouTube.
Oh, yeah. Well, they were the first channel to ever hit 1 million subscribers.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. They're a part of that place's history. I don't know if it's like an online place, but it's a place.
That was another thing that Anthony said in that video, too, where he's interviewing Ian. Like, they were literally one of the first channels to get an audience.
Yes.
Like, that is crazy to me. Like, to be probably within the first, like, million videos uploaded on YouTube.
Oh my god.
No! They probably don't know what's going on.
She wasn't as gross as when cats throw up though.
Cats are nasty. Well, cats like do that like whole pre-show.
They convulse their entire body, and it's like I really hate watching it. I'm gonna be a little bit closer to you. You know, like she didn't even touch me. She was like a good.
Well, we did catch all that on camera, so.
Yeah. What's this? Hold on. What's this wet spot? That's new.
That is new.
Well,
it's probably not from her. She didn't even.
What else would it be from? Oh, maybe my tea.
I think it's probably from your tea because you were holding the tea when she puked.
Okay, potentially my tea.
I think it's your tea. Do you want me to smell it? I'll smell test it.
Smell it.
That is tea. It smells like mint.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I guess I spilled a little bit then.
Yeah. Well, let's continue. My dog just threw up on the couch next to us, so we have to just keep moving.
I don't remember where we were.
We were talking about how Ian and Anthony Smosh was one of the first like big things to like blow up on YouTube. And I think it's nice to have a little full circle moment and be like, okay, like you guys were some of the first people to ever like see the value in this. And clearly you still do. It's almost sort of like flattering for YouTube, I guess, to know that people who've been doing this since the very beginning still see the point of it.
Yes. That's like, yeah, it's refreshing.
Yeah.
It's refreshing, and one of the things in like, I don't remember which new Smosh video this was said in. It might have been Anthony's interview with Ian, but they were explaining like how it happened basically, and they, you know, were reconnecting a bit. They were like, what if we bought Smosh? And then Ian set up a meeting with Rhett and Link, was like, hey, we want to buy it.
Yeah.
And he said something along the lines of just Rhett and Link, you know, understand friendship, and they understand that friendship is important, and they understand that that's like I don't know, it's an important part of YouTube. That's like, you know, Dan and Phil videos are just like recording being friends, and early Smosh videos are just them recording themselves being friends. A lot of Rhett and Link videos too, you know? Yeah. So it's just very cool to me that they understand that they prioritize friendship, you know, that they still put a value on that above like monetary value. Yeah.
I mean, they also keep saying like, I mean, part of it is to try to like get people to subscribe to the YouTube has like a subscription button now where you can choose to donate per month. But
become a member.
To become a member, but in so asking, they're like, we aren't doing this like Smosh because it's going to be like monetarily successful, because like YouTube does not reward like scripted comedy anymore, especially not short form scripted comedy.
It's not financially like efficient to make that stuff.
So it is kind of also refreshing to see people going into something and saying, okay, like this could hypothetically not work out financially. Mm-hmm. They put a lot of money into it, and like I assume they know they'll get a return on the membership stuff, and like I'm sure they do. I'm sure they already have. But at the same time, being like, okay, it's not what YouTube is going to promote, so we need to promote it ourselves, and like we care enough about it to put that work in, you know?
Yeah. That's also really refreshing to see people doing something just because they care about it. Yeah. That's kind of what I hope this is.
Me too.
That's what I hope this becomes. And it's also just going back a little bit. It's us recording us being friends.
Yeah. Because we have conversations like that. I mean, before we even had this specific idea for this podcast, like, we floated the idea of having a podcast for a while. And then we decided on, like, well, we'll just talk about, like, media stuff, and, like, our first season will be, like, on YouTube and whatever. Because, like, we just like to talk about stuff that we like. That's, like, a lot of our friendship is just, like, being a little nerdy with each other.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. This is stuff we bonded over.
Yeah.
Smosh was one of the first things we bonded. Like, actually...
It was, like, probably the first thing we majorly bonded over.
It was.
Yeah, because, like, we'd kind of been friends, but it wasn't... I didn't have a full appreciation of Michaela Heineck until I knew that you might go on a plane with me to Sacramento to stalk them in person.
That was the, us talking about going to Sacramento together as 12-year-olds, 12 or 13, to stalk Smosh. That was the culmination, or the start. I feel like that was the official start.
Yeah. That's when we both knew the other person was a little bit, like, freaky with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's good. Friendship is good. And, like, that is, I think, to this day, like, as an adult, part of what makes, like, online stuff to me, like, have value is that it does feel so, like, immediate and real, and, like, people do it just because they care about it. Because online monetization is, like, so flimsy and, like, can change at any moment. Like, you have to care about it to do it for an extended period of time. And I don't know, that to me, like, means something, like, putting in that work and that, like, passion for something.
Absolutely. With this, coming back to Zillennial Breakdown again, like, this is I don't expect to make any money off this.
No.
You know, it'd be cool if one day that happens, but I don't expect it at all. And yeah, also just another friendship example, Tessa Shauna. People, like, it's the same thing as what I've heard a lot of people talk about podcasts with. Like, people like podcasts because sometimes it feels like they're just hanging out with whoever's talking.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have podcasts. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts for, like, political and, like, news stuff. Yeah, so, like, there's that side of podcasts for me, but then also, part of the reason I listen to some podcasts is just because I like the people in it, and no matter what they're talking about, I'll listen, just because I'm gonna find it entertaining.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that like, post I saw of somebody being like, podcasts just feel like you're hanging out with people. I don't know how much I relate to that, but I kind of get it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I subscribe to 2 podcasts on Patreon, and one is for information and one is for these people feel like little friends.
Mm-hmm.
So
I hope we feel like somebody's little friends.
I think we feel, so this is the thing, my mom started listening to this podcast, and she said she puts it on in the car, and it makes her feel like we're sitting in the back of her car like when I was in high school, and it makes her cry.
My mom hasn't listened to this.
That says a lot about the Tina Renee dichotomy, I think.
I think it says something about also you being an only child and me not.
Renee's like, I'm glad these kids are out of the house. I keep saying stuff online. I do mean, like, internet content. I just hate the word content. It's, like, so soulless and bad.
Yes.
Because it makes me feel like, I don't know, the internet is like a void to be filled with just meaningless shit. And it doesn't have to be that way. I think it is often treated that way, but it should not be.
Mm-hmm. Lucas and I, when you took her out for a minute, we were talking about Etsy. He asked me about the painting there, and we were like, you know, talk about his mom a little bit, and she got an Etsy shop.
Yeah.
And how she got in really early. She, like, started her Etsy shop in, like, 2005 or something.
She did. She started her Etsy really, really early.
We just had a moment of complaining about how Etsy is, like, full of a lot of drop shippers who just, like, sell crap, or, like, you know, buy 50-cent t-shirts and put a design on them and call that, you know.
Yeah. Etsy is, like, shit now.
Yeah.
And I do remember as a kid, like, I don't know, like 14 years old maybe, buying, like, a lot of cool stuff on Etsy. Like, I had, like, a lot of merch stuff that was handmade.
And there's still,
like, hand painted.
There's still cool stuff on there.
There is. It doesn't mean it's
like
all bad.
A lot more bullshit to wade through, and that's how I feel about YouTube. That I'm repeating myself from our first episode, I think, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the internet in general, I think, has gotten a lot worse, especially since, like, this is the case with everything, I feel like, but since COVID, like, shit has gone bad. Like, I don't know what that's about. Actually, I do know what that's about. Like, I feel like things have gotten a lot more profit-driven in the past couple of years.
Well,
or at least it's a lot more obvious.
A steady increase. I mean, that shit's been culminating since before COVID.
Yeah.
I think things felt accelerated during COVID, and things felt like accentuated because it just like sucked to be alive in 2020.
It sucked to be online. It sucked to be alive in 2020 and for your only avenue for social interaction to be online. Because I think that's what really highlighted for me, like, what about being online was bad.
I agree with you, but there was also like a lot of surprising positivity, at least towards the beginning of it.
Yeah.
I remember a lot of like Instagram trend things, like story trends. It was like, repost this and I'll like repost your favorite or my favorite of your posts and stuff. And it was like,
and
it was like, say something nice about this and like keep the trail going, you know?
Yeah, people trying to just like beat boredom and like stay connected with people, and that's like fine for sure.
That was nice. I don't know. I hadn't seen that stuff in a long time. I feel like since I was like a kid on small and with like 50 Facebook friends. You know? Yeah.
That was. I agree. That was like mostly nice.
That was nice. I don't want this to turn into a complaining session.
Yeah.
Even though there's always so much to complain about, but since this is just like a bonus, this is outside of the framework that only we know, so it doesn't matter that I'm saying that. But I just wanted to... Okay, I'm going to wrap it back around to at the beginning, my personal little YouTube renaissance. I'm sorry also if I just like derailed something you were going
Oh, no, you're good. I was just going to say, like, I feel like YouTube and Twitter specifically have gotten a lot worse. Yeah. And that, like, makes, I guess, trying to engage with, like, stuff online, like, a lot more difficult. Because those were avenues that I feel like a lot of people had for trying to find cool stuff. And now that those algorithms are so much worse and, like, are, I think, in the hands of people that don't super care about what happens to them. Like, I don't know. That is demoralizing, but it doesn't mean that the good stuff isn't, like, still on those platforms.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah.
It still is a place of discovery, but I don't know. I'm repeating myself again, but it just feels like you gotta wade through a lot of bullshit to get to something that actually is like interesting and or good.
Yeah, but when it's good, it's good.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, with anything, like, there's a lot of bad movies out there, too. There's a lot of bad books. But when you find the one thing that's, like, worth it, it's like, the whole art form was worth it for that, you know? And that can be the same thing with YouTube. Whether you see that as an art form or not, I do. Like... Yeah. No. I think it's worth it for, like, the good stuff that's on there. Even if there is also, like, Logan Paul walking through a forest on there, you know?
What is that?
He went to the Japanese suicide forest and filmed a dead body and posted it online. It was not good.
Yeah.
It's a little funny in hindsight. I mean, it's not funny for the family of the dead body, but it's a little funny.
We're far enough removed, maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm kind of far enough removed that I really don't, like, I didn't know what that was. I think maybe when it happened, I saw a headline or two, but I don't pay attention to that stuff. I kind of had this thought while we were watching Why I Quit YouTube. Right before this, we were watching most of Dan's video, Why I Quit YouTube. This is a chaotic one because I'm glad we're filming this, but also I need to do more future preparation because I keep losing future preparation. I keep losing my train of thought. I feel my brain feels very flighty.
You were talking about your YouTube renaissance and how Kick the PJ kind of started it because you really like Kick the PJ.
Yes.
And then also Smosh buying Smosh is throwing you back in.
And Vlogbrothers.
And Vlogbrothers, yeah.
Unfortunately,
which we talked about last time.
It kind of is because of Hank's cancer diagnosis that has like re-kickstarted my interest. And it's not like I'm watching because it's like, I want to know what's happening with Hank, but it's just like, oh, that happened. That's a big deal. He has a cancer diagnosis. And I watched some of those videos, and then they also just have been like coming up on YouTube Shorts, which I do occasionally indulge in.
So does Lucas. Lucas is my boyfriend, by the way. Lucas also sometimes engages in YouTube Shorts, and it's like always like the weirdest people who make stuff for YouTube Shorts are deranged, I think. There's
some really weird shit on there.
Unless they're already like an established YouTube channel, like I think there might be something wrong with you if you're posting on YouTube Shorts.
The first several times that I used it, that I like got into the little scrolling hole, it was a lot of conservative content.
Yeah,
which was
they
like
pushed
kind
a
of
lot of that.
concerning.
Which is weird too, because that's what got pushed on Lucas's too. And it seems like the Shorts algorithm is not connected to your YouTube algorithm.
Definitely not.
Like, and that doesn't make any sense to me, because like if YouTube knows what you like to watch in long form, why don't they care to connect that to what you watch short form?
Also, at that time, so I really feel like, and part of why I'm calling my recent, re-upping of interest in the Vlogbrothers and in, like, PJ, Dan, Phil, and Smosh, is because I really, for, like, several years, I was not watching YouTube kind of at all. I would occasionally go back for, like, a dose of nostalgia, but I wouldn't go on it. I wouldn't really use it kind of at all.
Yeah. That's crazy to me, because I always have watched YouTube, like hours a day.
I think it was primarily the ads. I really couldn't handle. Like, I just would get so pissed off. I still don't know.
Install ad blocker, bro.
Yeah, that was
free.
That would fix my problem.
That would fix your problem.
I started watching this channel called Belief in Fatherhood.
Sorry, it's just so funny. That as a sentence is funny to me.
I am so not the target demographic of that channel. But I just started watching it. And, like, maybe that has something to do with how much conservative Shorts content I was getting.
Maybe.
Not that Belief in Fatherhood is a conservative channel. Like, they're really... I think he keeps it pretty apolitical.
What you showed me, they seem like they might be Christian, but not conservative.
Well, they are Christian, for sure.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was getting at, is like, maybe if the Shorts algorithm, is it all connected to the main thing? It's like, oh, Christian channel, other Christian conservatives. Maybe. But yeah. Yeah.
Well, Belief in Father, because you showed me some of those videos. They are sweet, and like I do think there's an appeal, because like family vlogging has always kind of been a thing. I personally think it's a little bit weird.
Sometimes it's clearly exploitative. I don't think Belief in Fatherhood is that.
No, I was gonna say, like, I usually think it's weird, but that channel seems like it's more about connecting with other dads and like trying to find ways to connect better with your kids, which I think is a good thing. And not something that, it's a niche that is usually not filled. So I think that's fine. And I think it's a very sweet channel. So I can kind of see how that got you back in a little bit. It's sort of like that, it's not morbid curiosity, but it's like curiosity of people that are different from you.
And it's also, like a person doing this because he cares about it. He is like, Belief in Fatherhood, like, is a business at this point. He's a business owner. He has employees. He like has a structure and an office and all that jazz. But at the core of it, I really, he believes that this is his calling to be doing what he's doing. And so that's really genuine. There's like what's like the noun form of genuine? That's really, because I was trying to say there's a layer.
Someone who's earnest?
There's a layer of earnestness.
Earnesty.
That sounds fake.
Earnesty is the word, though.
There's a layer of genuineness. If I just add
genuineness is the word.
Yeah, anyways, there's a layer of genuineness to Belief in Fatherhood videos. That I think drew me back into watching YouTube videos. Yeah.
That something you said too then, like about how he believes it's his calling. I think that is something that to be successful with like any creative pursuit you kind of have to do. And I think people who are successful online have that like very much in them, like more so than a lot of other people, especially because I think if your first avenue for trying to be successful is online, you probably don't have that many resources available. And I think it's something you just really have to care about because you want to do it and not because you think you're going to be successful in any way. And there's a degree of like you being a little bit crazy, I think, that has to go into that, but like in a good way.
Or you're just like doing it for fun, right? You're doing it for shits and giggles, and then it turns into like, oh, I can make money from this, and then you kind of figure out like how to continue doing that. Yeah. And I don't know if that's necessarily like, if people view that as a calling or an occupation. And then some people though like kind of view those as the same. I had a really interesting conversation with somebody once who was like, a vocation is sacred. And I was like, that's a really interesting take.
And I mean, that's a very like, almost, what's the sect of Christianity? It's like a Protestant kind of, like,
maybe she was Protestant.
They value that like work ethic and like,
she could have been.
I mean, this is not how they would say it, but you put your whole pussy into whatever you do. Because that's what God wants you to do.
This was I forgot her name, but this was an Air Force general that had said this.
It could have been like a Christian thing.
Yeah. But that as like a concept has kind of stuck with me, like viewing a vocation as a sacred thing.
Something you should like respect within yourself. Yeah.
I don't think that like, it doesn't like resonate with me. Like, I don't know how much I agree with that sentiment, but it's just really interesting to me. Yeah. And
I think a lot of people view work that way.
I think that Glenn from Belief in Fatherhood definitely does. Yeah. That's my impression anyways. And it's not for me, like I don't feel that way, but it's cool to see. I think it's cool that he feels that way.
Yeah. I think if it's something that's very genuine and not motivated by money, like I respect that. Mm-hmm. I think that, I don't know, feeling like everybody should feel that way is a bit, I don't know. I have feelings about the Protestant work ethic thing because I think most people are not in the position to chase like the vocation that they want. And then you're stuck with this like, well, God didn't want me to do the thing I wanted to do, so what is my, I don't know. It's just like, if you fail at that thing, like you're gonna feel really fucking bad.
Yeah. No, it's not something that it's not an idea that should be pushed on other people or like a widespread expectation. Yeah. But it's just an interesting concept to me.
It is. Yeah.
Phoebe? Oh, she just has the conquer.
The conquer.
I almost said
she's conking.
I almost said cocker. Very tangent-y again, but
anyway, yeah. So Belief in Fatherhood got you back in, and then
just
that was somewhat recent. That was in like the past year or so, right?
Yeah, I think I've been kind of watching Belief in Fatherhood for a little over a year, maybe a year and a half. And with like the recent news that's been happening in my older interests, as we already covered with Vlog Brothers, Smosh and stuff. It's just getting me back in. And also, I think maybe a little part of it is growing interest in movies and cinema and stuff. Because I watched this movie, Moon Garden, recently and was like enamored with how it looked. And so like my appreciation for colors has been something that's on my mind lately. And I don't remember what it was I saw that made me want to go watch Color Bandits.
Yeah, and Color Bandits is like definitely one of his more like, I mean, it's experimenting with color. That's the exercise in a short film. So
yeah, and Color Bandits, when that video came out, was something that I super loved. I mean, at the time I was in love with anything PJ did, but Color Bandits specifically, I was like enamored with, and it's color, it's visuals. I don't remember what I was talking to you about, but I remember I said how like I've kind of always said if I had to choose between losing my hearing or losing my sight, I would say losing my hearing because of music, but that changed. It's different now. I would lose my hearing instead because I think I have all the cones in my eyes. I do think I see every color that humans can see.
Yeah. You can test for that online.
See, I've taken an online test and that's what said I have all of my cones.
Good.
And when I'm editing, I love editing my concert photos because I can, you have Camera Raw, you can adjust all of the most of the hues in a photo. Mm-hmm. I love doing that. Yeah, I need to take a color theory class.
You should.
Yeah. Also, all these people, I guess what this episode is sort of centered around, we have Ian and Anthony, Dan and Phil, and John and Hank.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all good eggs. You know, as far as we can perceive in the parasocial situation we have with them, like, they're good eggs. Also, okay, John and Hank are almost objectively. Just because we covered this in the last episode, but everything that they've done and continue to do for their varying communities, it's very impressive and very wholesome.
They raise a lot of money for different charities.
Yeah, I think that's mostly what I'm talking about, but yeah. Welcome back. It's been about 24 hours. Well, a little under 24 hours.
Yeah.
But we were recording this and then we went to go get ice cream. And then we were going to record when we got back, but the battery was still dead, so we charged it overnight. And now it's charged and now it's the next day and we're finishing this episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
Yesterday we watched most of Why I Quit YouTube, which is one of the big videos on Dan's channel. Like one of the big videos in his like YouTube timeline, which it was uploaded like a year-ish ago and I actually never watched it. Even though I remember you bringing it up when we were talking about the podcast one time, we were talking about what we wanted the concept to be. Like we were, narrowing down on the specifics and stuff. We were like, let's talk about YouTube and media and sort of like analyze that element of pop culture and stuff. And I don't know, the conversation that we were having, you brought up Why I Quit YouTube. And you were like, yeah, Dan talks about stuff in that video. There's a lot of similarities between like what we were talking about and what Dan talked about in that video.
Yeah.
And I saw that when we watched most of it yesterday. But there were things in the Why I Quit YouTube video that I really didn't think about, I guess, because as a professional YouTuber, there's just things that they would have to think about that I never have.
A couple of things that I think are most maybe upsetting in the video are he talks a lot about how people who watched his videos were so critical, but not in a way where it's like they were actually critiquing the work. It's more like they were asking things of him that they thought that they were owed. And I think that that's something that with online video you get, it just feels a lot more personal than any other kind of like creation. Because like a showrunner, they're so removed from the work that they did by the time that it finally like debuts that I think they're removed enough from it to like not care as much what people have to say. And it's, it's a group decision. So if someone is mad about something, like it usually doesn't just fall on one person. Same with like movies and like, books are personal, but whatever. Anyway, something about YouTube that is so immediate is that you are the product and it feels like people are critiquing you and not like the thing that you made. And because they feel like you owe them something, like it just feels like a very personal exchange. And I think that does take a toll on people's like mental health and well-being. Same with the like algorithmic need to like keep cranking out content, or like it will stop referring your videos to people. You don't get breaks, I think is what he said.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I was thinking about, or that I realized while watching. I was like, oh shit, I didn't like think about that. It was mostly the algorithm. Yeah, the whole section of the video about the YouTube algorithm. Like I was like, I didn't really know any of that shit. And I think part of that's because I just really didn't like watch YouTube almost at all for a couple of years. But yeah, it's bullshit. And entitlement is pretty bullshit. That was kind of gross to me. Entitlement, I think, is pretty gross. There's probably some kind of weird line or like difficult balance between taking people's input on whatever you're making and like, if you're open to criticisms and input to like improve whatever you're making and or give people a little more of what they want, that's one thing. But if you're only focused on giving people what they want, and then that like increases levels of entitlement. I don't know. That's gross and weird.
Yeah.
And not on the creator. It's like gross and weird on the people feeling entitled to whatever they're asking for, or like feeling owed something. I think that's something probably talked about kind of a lot with parasocial relationships.
Yeah.
Is people feeling owed something.
Yeah. Because they feel like,
weird.
well, this person goes out of their way to make these things for me. So if I'm not pleased with the situation, like, I can take that away from them at any point in time. But, like, at the end of the day, the person creating it is still the one with all the power to get things done. So, like, it should be up to them to decide what they want to make. And if you don't like it, you can leave at any time. But I think a lot of people don't have that mentality. And they feel like they have put so much time and, like, have so much stake in the situation at hand that they should have a say. But that's not how it works. That's like it's just a fundamental misunderstanding.
It's not. You're not in charge there as much as you might wish you were. You're not in charge of somebody's schedule or production of whatever they're making. Like,
if you're mad that a YouTuber that you watched when you were 15 is not making the content he was making when you were 15 for 15-year-olds, I'm gonna say that's a you problem and not
definitely
anyone else's.
Also, if you're 25 and you're still just like dependent on the videos you were watching when you were 15, then I don't know. That feels like kind of a problem too. Another like you problem.
Yeah. No, it's very weird. And like any other kind of creator, I think is given that space to like keep evolving. And I think people get so attached to like a certain kind of video or a certain kind like style of content that they just grip onto it really hard and get very upset when it's gone. Because I do think a lot of people use YouTube as like a coping mechanism, which is not healthy. I mean, I've done it, but it's not healthy. And it's not really fair to the people that make those videos. Because at some point, they start doing it because it's a job, right? And then, that's something he addressed too. Eventually, your hobby becomes your job, and then you can't really enjoy your hobby anymore. And that in itself is like, kind of like a grief you have to go through. But no one owes you anything. No one owes you a goddamn thing. And like, you have to kind of just accept that. So people change.
Yeah.
And that's like, that doesn't just apply to like a fucking YouTuber, that like is everything, you know?
She's got some weird goop on her eye that I keep staring at.
Oh, she's always got goop.
She's such a goopy girl.
Yeah.
Something I thought of while you were talking just then is like allowing people to evolve in whatever skill or like style of stuff they're making. It's okay if you don't like it anymore, or you don't, or if you're disappointed in whatever direction somebody's going in. And I guess I can understand like feeling so strongly about something, but you have to accept it's not your life or your journey of evolution.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking about Remo Drive and I'm thinking about New Politics, who are bands whose first albums are awesome, I think, and then all of their subsequent albums kind of suck. And it's like disappointing to me, but it's whatever. They're on their own artistic journey.
Yeah, it applies to anything.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, in music I think it's a little bit comparable to YouTube too, because people do take it so personally. And like when they critique it, it does sometimes feel like they're also critiquing you. But yeah, it's another thing where it's like, okay, you've got to enjoy some of the things that person made, and now you don't.
It's also a little bit like relationships.
Yeah.
Like, if you're in a capital R relationship with someone, at points, like, you want that to be the thing for the rest of your life. Maybe, probably, for some people. But I feel like more often than not, that's not the case. Like, that person is not meant to be in your life forever. But eventually, you just, you accept it for what it was, and you can appreciate it for what it was, and that little snippet that you got,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like, the first album was good, but then their album started to suck, and then it was like, well, I think you're done in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first Boyfriend season was great, and then he got kind of dull.
Yeah.
I don't know. And it's stuff that I feel like the kind of people that get upset about online videos are the same people that have a hard time processing, like, real life change, probably, too. And, like, one of their avenues for taking it out is, yelling at people online. So it's a bigger personal problem. Mm-hmm. But, I do think it is something that has gotten a lot worse, and I think specifically people a little bit younger than us feel very entitled to, like, what people make for them, using air quotes. I don't know how to get that out of people, but...
I'm trying to remember if myself as a teenager felt entitled to people's content.
I don't think I did. Like, obviously I had a very strong, attachment to some people, but even if they were making stuff I didn't like, I'd be like, oh, okay, I'll just go watch something else. Like, it doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal. There's so much other stuff out there.
And I've almost never, people who promise like a weekly schedule or a monthly schedule, I almost never pay attention to that stuff. Probably because there's other things out there to consume.
Yeah.
But I've seen people comment or like be angry if somebody is late on an upload, right? Like if they say they'll upload on a Friday and they do it on a Saturday. I don't know, like people get mad.
No, that's crazy.
Or even if they skip a week, right?
Yeah, like shit happens in the world. Sometimes people take PTO. It's the same thing. Like,
who cares?
I don't know. Yeah, who cares? Like, I don't know. And like the average YouTube video is so unimportant in the grand scheme of things. Like, okay, you didn't get to watch someone do a silly little challenge on their couch for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You get to watch something else that week.
I don't know, like shit happens. I feel like there's been times in my life I'll like promise a deadline or something and then it's like, oh, I don't know.
We do that with this podcast.
All the time. It's honestly not great.
It's not great. We need to fix that. But yeah, people break promises all the time and that's just something you need to get used to.
To a degree, to an extent. Yes. But also don't break promises.
Yeah, it's a two-way street.
Don't make too many excuses for yourself.
Yeah.
I hate getting bailed on. I understand shit happens. I understand and it's not even always a shit happens thing. Maybe you're just exhausted and depressed and you don't want to hang out with me that day. And I understand that and I'm not going to be like really angry about that or anything, but it does just suck. Like I still hate when that happens.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to like take negative emotions out on anybody.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's different.
Anyway, yeah, I think there's just a lot of negativity that people who do make these videos like face in doing so, which is part of the territory because like anytime you upload something online, someone could say something really terrible to you. But I think there is a lot of entitlement that is like inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that was something that were thinking about just in terms of like watching some of this stuff as adults. I don't know, a lot of these people seem like they're really burnt out. And it's kind of sad.
Okay, this is take 2 of the makeshift outro because we didn't film a real one because the card filled up, because we didn't really have our shit together for that episode, kind of at all, but I actually feel like we hit a pretty good flow. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you listened to all of that, thank you. very much. I had the thought to end these on like a what are you looking forward to little bit. And I think we've done that with the first 2 episodes. And I actually, instead of like something I'm looking forward to, I'm just gonna give a shout out to my cat Evie, who's on my floor right now, being very cute and not annoying. And that's not a dig at Phoebe, oh my god. She just was like yelling at me a bunch earlier. And Mackenzie's not here because I'm editing this 2 months after the fact. But she's moving soon, so that's gonna be her thing to look forward to. I'm pretty sure. And anyways, thanks again if you listen to all that. This is our makeshift little outro. You made it to the end of the episode. Yeah, that's all. Have a good day, night, afternoon.